there's a good chance your life is following a pattern discovered thousands of years ago. A pattern carved into ancient myths, hidden inside modern cinema, and buried deep inside your own mind. Carl Jung believed every human being would eventually live this story. Most people never realize they're already inside it. Why does the same story keep appearing across every civilization on Earth? A young hero leaves home, faces impossible challenges, descends into darkness, dies symbolically, and returns transformed. Ancient Sumerians told it. The Greeks told it. The Vikings told it. George Lucas told it. And according to Carl Jung, your own life may be telling it right now. By the end of this video, you'll understand why every culture keeps repeating this narrative, and you'll be able to identify exactly where you are in the journey yourself. More than 4,000 years ago, long before Rome, long before Greece, before most of recorded history, a goddess stood before the gates of the underworld. Her name was Inanna. She was powerful, beloved, the queen of heaven. And yet she chose to descend. At the first gate, she surrendered her crown. At the second, her jewels. At the third, her royal garments. Gate after gate, piece by piece, everything that defined her was stripped away. By the time she reached the seventh gate, nothing remained. No status, no power, no title, only herself. Waiting in the darkness was Ereshkigal, the ruler of the underworld, her sister, her shadow. Inanna was struck down, killed, left hanging in the dark, but then something remarkable happened. She returned, transformed, carrying wisdom she could never have gained in the world above. This story is over 4,000 years old. Yet if you've watched Star Wars, you've already seen it. Luke leaves Tatooine, enters the Death Star, confronts darkness, returns changed. If you've seen The Matrix, you've seen it again. Neo leaves the illusion, descends into the unknown, returns awakened. Inanna, Luke, Neo, 4,000 years apart, the same journey. And it doesn't stop at mythology and cinema. Think about Forrest Gump. A man with physical and intellectual limitations, yet his entire life traces this map with uncanny precision. His ordinary world is Greenbow, Alabama. His childhood companion Jenny delivers the call, "Run, Forrest, run." His mother is his mentor, anchoring him with simple, unbreakable wisdom. He crosses into the special world of football Vietnam international fame. And his deepest transformation doesn't happen during the victories. It happens during the run. 3 years of solitary movement across America, dissolving grief, shedding his old identity, returning quietly without fanfare, ready to raise his son. Different characters, different worlds, the same journey. The question is, why? Jung believed your mind was older than you think, much older. Beneath your personal memories, beneath your childhood, lies something shared by every human being who has ever lived. A hidden layer he called the collective unconscious. And inside that hidden layer, live universal patterns. Characters that appear in every culture, every dream, every myth. Jung called them archetypes. The hero is one. The mentor, the wise figure who guides you to the edge of the unknown, then steps back, forcing you to walk alone. The threshold guardian, not an external enemy, but the internal voice that says, "You're not ready, you're not enough, turn back." And then there is the shadow. The shadow is Jung's most misunderstood idea. Most people imagine it as evil. It isn't. The shadow contains the parts of you that you've spent your life trying to hide, your anger, your envy, your ambition, every version of yourself you buried, because it felt dangerous or wrong or too much. In mythology, the shadow wears the mask of the villain, Darth Vader, Agent Smith, the dragon guarding the gold. But Jung made a radical claim. The purpose of the hero's journey is not to destroy the shadow. It is to confront it, understand it, and integrate it. Because the monster was never really out there. The monster is always in here. This is why the darkest moment of every hero story involves a descent, a cave, a forest, an underworld, a Death Star. Because psychologically, they are entering themselves. And the climax of that descent is what Campbell called atonement with the Father. The Father represents the supreme authority inside your own mind, the voice that judges, controls, and limits. Look at Star Wars. When Luke discovers Vader is his father, his response is horror. But in the final act, Luke doesn't try to destroy his father. He throws down his weapon, surrenders. And by surrendering, he wins, not through violence, through compassion. And that's the transformation the hero's journey is actually building toward. Not conquest, integration. Here's where the myth becomes personal. Because the hero's journey doesn't belong to ancient tablets or Hollywood screenplays. It belongs to your life. Maybe you've stayed in a job you stopped believing in years ago. Maybe there's a conversation you've been postponing, a decision you've been circling, a version of your life you've been afraid to reach for. If so, you may be living in the refusal of the call right now, and that's not weakness. Every hero does it. Campbell warned that refusing the call converts your life into a kind of internal wasteland. The longer you wait, the smaller the ordinary world becomes. Eventually, life forces movement. A relationship ends, a door closes, a diagnosis arrives, and suddenly the ordinary world is gone. Whether you were ready or not, you cross the threshold, and then comes the hardest stage, the months of uncertainty. The failures that feel like evidence of something permanently wrong with you. The silence where your old identity used to be. This is the stage most people mistake for collapse. But every mythological tradition in human history says the same thing. This stage is not collapse. It's initiation. Inanna lost her crown before she gained her wisdom. Luke lost his certainty before he found his power. You may have to lose something too. A belief, a fear, a version of yourself you've outgrown. That is the price every hero pays, and it is always worth it. The most striking proof of this pattern is how perfectly it appears across civilizations that never contacted each other. In Egypt, every soul underwent a post-mortem journey through the underworld, culminating in the Hall of Ma'at, where the heart was weighed against the feather of truth, an ultimate ethical reckoning. In Rome, Aeneas descends to find his deceased father, and his personal grief becomes part of a larger destiny, giving his suffering a meaning that extends beyond his own lifetime. And look at one of the most unexpected convergences in all of world mythology, the ancient Tibetan life of Milarepa and the Wizard of Oz. Two stories from completely separate worlds centuries apart, and yet a protagonist starting in domestic loss, a demanding, unpredictable mentor, a witch-like enemy to overcome, and the discovery that the power they searched for across the entire world was always within them. Different symbols and different centuries and the same psychological truth. Leave the known, face the unknown, return transformed. So, here is the final question. What if the reason every culture on Earth tells the exact same story is because every human life eventually becomes that story? Think about what that means. Myths didn't create the pattern. Human transformation created the myths. The hero's journey isn't hiding inside ancient stories. The stories are hiding inside the hero's journey. Because every time a human being loses what they thought defined them and survives, they create a new myth. Maybe you're still standing at the edge of the threshold. Maybe you've already crossed it and you're somewhere in the dark, wondering when it ends. If that's where you are, remember what every culture that ever existed has tried to tell us. The darkest moment of the night arrives right before transformation. The hero never feels like a hero while it's happening. They only understand the journey after they return. So, tell me in the comments, looking back, what was the moment your own hero's journey truly began? And if you want to keep exploring the archetypes, myths, and psychological forces, shaping human life thousands of years later, subscribe to Archetype Unbound. Because the oldest stories in the world may still be telling us who we are,